joined in studio by the one, the only Ann Coulter. How many times New York Times bestseller is it now? Is it 11 or 12?
Thank you for asking.
I always
12 times.
12 times.
12 books. The last two were the most important, as you know.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, you came out with the first was the
high crimes and misdemeanors.
Mm-hmm.
That was the last time it was topical and relevant, something I wanted people to read and act on right away. And the last time is the current book, In Trump We Trust.
In Trump We Trust, and then right before that, Adios America. Right. And so can you tell us, I mean, this has been a wild ride, of course, the last year and a half here since Donald Trump has launched his campaign. It looks like he has a pretty good chance on Election Day.
Don't jinx it.
I'm not jinxing it, but your book set the tone for this election. Can you tell us a little bit about why Adios America was so important in terms of walking through? I mean, look, there's breaking news tonight that there is another 10-year-old girl who was just killed by a previously deported illegal alien in East Texas.
Thank heaven people are noticing it now. This thing used to just go under the radar. Nobody would ever hear about it. The media absolutely goes out of its way to hide illegal aliens, much less legal aliens. Committing heinous, hideous child molestations, rapes, gang rapes, murders. And thanks to Donald Trump and that Mexican rapist speech, boy, we at least we have some parts of the media noticing it now and making fun of the other parts of the media that won't admit it. But it ought to be said. Hi, Pat.
Pat Caddell is getting here now too, so joining us here in studio with Julia Hahn and Coulter and me here. Again we're seeing the effects of open borders immigration policies.
Well, I wanted to say we were talking about the magnificent book, Adios America. And thank God Trump did read it. But the important point is it didn't take reading that book for Trump to be a good American and care about the American people. Back in 2013, when Julia, Stephen Miller, and I, and probably you two, but I know we were deeply, deeply depressed as Marco Rubio, darling of the Tea Party, was pushing amnesty after swearing on his mother's life when he ran for Senate from Florida that he would not. And we had Rush Limbaugh, Mark Levin, and Sean Hannity heavily pushing Rubio's plan because it was totally different. It was totally different. This time we'd have to have a commission assure us that the border was secure, no wall, but they'd assure us the border was secure. And then, but before they had to do that, we'd amnesty them all just to show, a gesture of good faith. So, it looks like the country was over back then. In that period, 2013, 2 years before Adios America came out, Trump was sending tweet after tweet warning Republicans
and doing interviews
this is
with
suicide.
Yep.
That's right. You did the interview with him. So I mean, all Adios America was a lot of research on the details of how bad it really is. And he requested an advance copy of it. Meanwhile, I'm post-it noting Adios America, FedExing it to Romney and various other potential and actual presidential candidates. No, it's sitting in. I figure the Koch brothers doormen are fantastic on immigration now because I've sent so many copies to the Koch brothers. But I deliver them to the doorman apartments here in New York. I send them through my fancy friends whom Pat knows, who know them personally. No, they're just closets of them that the doormen have all read.
Now, Pat, we were talking about the immigration stuff that Ann again was way ahead of the curve on with regard to the Adios America book. We've done a lot of polling on this issue, and the American people are huge majorities. Even if they're not saying they're supporting Trump, they support Trump's position on the issue.
Yeah, I mean the concern over the border we're seeing, in these polls that we've been doing, that I've been consulting on.
I'm dying to hear what you think about the polls.
Oh, we'll get to that. Believe me, you'll love it. Anyway, the support, the feeling, the concern about the border is extremely high. It's almost 60%. Almost half people saying they're very concerned about it. The concern that everything we tested about whether we are stopping things at the border, whether it's over. People just overwhelmingly believe that we have a problem and that it is contributing to community problems, that it is contributing to job problems, up and down the line. Where they may be split on the wall, they are not split on the question of how serious a problem. And the most recent stuff that's interesting is what we've been seeing about the vetted refugees, if you will, which to say in every state poll of the last several days we've had, overwhelming majorities believe that they are not being vetted, that and that the plans, either by Obama but particularly Hillary Clinton, to support further announcement of Syrian refugees is going down. It's like 58% against, including as many as 35 to 40% of our own voters. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why I think that having pressed that issue, because people they've had enough of this.
Right.
Where I want to go with this, guys, is that both of these issues, both this issue, immigration, and the trade issue, I think have served for the platform or the creation of what Trump calls a movement of people, the thousands and thousands of people that come out to these rallies that are supporting him in the presidential race. The people that don't get shown by the media. We know that the media is not doing that. So I wanted to ask both of you guys and kind of open this up to everybody here is why is it the people that call in here to our shows, I mean, there's thousands of them. Thousands and thousands of people all across the country, tens of thousands, millions that are disaffected. They're showing up at Trump rallies. They're calling into these shows. They're commenting on Breitbart.com and other websites. Why is the media ignoring this movement?
Well, because they're ignoring basic attitudes. One of the things I find interesting, and we'll get to this, is how little support there, where the country is on the issue array that this election is about, and the larger things, which is solidly against them. That's why I've always thought this thing about the Senate, only because the Republican Senate leadership is so dumb.
Yes,
it's beyond stupid, and their donors are even more stupid about what they do. There's been a problem. For instance, take the issue of sanctuary cities. I've been doing in some of the polling I've been doing myself on the in-depth Smith stuff. For instance, on the question of sanctuary cities, it's 2-to-1 people saying who know about it. Now, remember, a lot of people don't even know what it is.
Media
but of those who they don't report, 2-to-1 for cutting off all funding.
Yes.
In this country for sanctuary cities.
Yes.
And they don't report any of these things, and I'll tell you the one that has gotten me the most upset in the last couple of days, and I said this yesterday, we were doing radio, is my personal one is the discovery. And I think it tells you everything you need to know about the mindset of the Obama administration and the left. But particularly this administration, it is the hugest tell I've ever seen, that of the 10 or 15,000 Syrian refugees allowed in, 56 have been Christians. 56. The people who are being crucified, having their heads cut off, under attack, we have not let them in.
Right.
They're not coming. We're not getting them. And it is kind of a moral issue here. It is, but the media cuts off, and so do the elites.
Well,
it's not a subject we should. We need to be nice to people.
Because they don't live where the refugees live. They don't live where the nanny lives. They don't live where the maid lives. But I will say, in defense of the donors, the plutocrats, I used to throw them in the exact same boat as the Senate leadership and the campaign consultants. I now think it really is all just a Washington, D.C. thing. The reason the donors, a lot of them, some of them are swine, but the reason a lot of the donors have always believed this, that the only path to victory is the autopsy report, we must appeal to the Hispanic vote, is because that's what the consultants and the Senate leadership tells them. We really just need to clean out Washington, D.C.
And let me clarify a point that's really important on this. Those donors each have doorkeepers and gatekeepers.
Yes.
Who, for the most part, come out of the class of Karl Rove and others.
Yes.
Who are the ones who keep them from hearing better arguments or better strategies as they end up wasting their money as they are doing this year. Except I think the Kochs in the Senate race have had some impact. But the stuff, they don't listen to anything. Everyone's protecting arrangements they have in the political consulting class.
But now that Trump has broken through, this is the new thing, I think. I think some of the donor class, they're plutocrats. They're busy making money, whatever it is they do. They believe people like Karl Rove.
If they only ran their political money the way they run their businesses, if they only applied some of the judgment.
But they might now, because Trump has proved the political consultants don't know what they're talking about.
But they still haven't this fall done it, because they have been, I don't even want to tell you how much how frustrating it is to see them where the Democrats coordinate everything, which is legal. These people don't even talk to each other. They have their own things. Who's getting a payoff? When the quote, the sort of semi-official Trump super PAC, the first one that they had out there, they hired Alex Castellanos, a consultant not only who was leading the Never Trump movement, but that's
then
not
all
even.
Of a sudden he gets paid and he's on the other side.
No, now he's on an appearing. But here's the point with him. Yeah. He never understood this election.
No.
He doesn't. The fact that more you fail, and of course that's the media thing. I just love that the idea of balance on MSNBC. It's people. I'm sure I'll be begging for jobs soon there, but whatever. But they have
Democrats who hate Trump and Republicans who
Democrats
hate Trump. That's the balance.
Trump, yes, and that's the balance. Never Trump Republicans. Whether it is whether the rising force on NBC, Bush's former communications. God, why am I drawing a blank on her name? She's there every day on Morning Joe.
Nicole Wallace. And then you've got Anna
Mike
Navarro
Murphy, my
on
favorite.
CNN, right?
See, Anna Navarro.
Why do we have
more? We have Rick Tyler from who is now the analyst, who is the Ted Cruz political director, who was a great success, who thinks that the country is somewhere else. I mean, these people, and Mike Murphy, the loser of all time. Destroyed George Bush in the process, of Jeb Bush, while in the process of making $20 or $30 million.
And don't forget Stuart Stevens.
And I was going to go to my favorite, the man who ran the most incompetent campaign in American history.
That should have won.
And it should have won. And it should have won. And which I didn't say that after the campaign. I said it all during the campaign in 2012.
So did Peter Brimelow. He dropped immigration like a hot potato as soon as he got the nomination.
Me. Let me just say about your former wonderful friend, Mr. Romney, who is proven.
He's very elegant.
It is proven that his insensitivity to the world and these people's, between the Bushes, I mean, the country understands the division. It's between them and the political class. And guess who? The curtain falls in D.C. and you suddenly see all these people holding hands together. They are all in bed together. They've screwed up foreign policy. They've screwed up, and now they're out there saying, "Oh my God, Trump is so dangerous," and whatever.
The other great thing,
and we, by the way, in the word that they cannot speak, just like in Harry Potter with the Lord, is the word corruption, which they are all corrupt to the core.
Right.
Anyway, that was
the other thing that's fun. A related point is how suddenly the most hated people by the media, the neocons, even Mormons are having their moment in the sun
yes,
now.
Yes, they are. How
they
wonderful
love it.
they are.
It's fantastic. Jeff Flake is a hero to the mainstream media. Yeah, Ben Sass. Yep.
Oh, God, they just unbelievable.
No, and I feel sorry for poor Christy Todd Whitman. Remember, she used to be the go-to Republican to denounce other Republicans. I just imagine her sitting at home, pacing, staring at MSNBC. My number hasn't changed, MSNBC. Does it have to be Mike Murphy and Stuart Stevens all the time?
Or CNN. I just love the special part where they when they get to discussing the voters, the people out there. But what I love,
they know so well.
No, they know. They're so close to. But they made it up for this because they've all now admitted. God, I guess we were really kind of not nice to McCain and I mean, because any Republican candidate they trash as anti-woman, evil, whatever.
Right.
And now they admit maybe we overdid that. Now that we have the real one who is the danger, and all I can think of is it makes people want to go, oh, good. That's who I should vote for. Anyway, it's
one of the things that jumps out at me that we were talking about there is, again, every single panel on one of these mainstream media outlets, whenever they do their major breaking news coverage or whatever, and then they have their little panels to talk about it, is always there is a pro-Hillary Democrat who's always anti-Trump. They have a pro-Trump Republican, or maybe two, but then they always balance it out with an anti-Trump Republican.
Most of these panels don't even bother with getting, as long as they have a Republican.
And if they do, they're not very articulate at
they're not experienced.
But they never have anti-Hillary Democrats, and there's a lot of them out there.
No, I've never. Well, of course not.
As I think we're going to find out on Tuesday, but we'll see.
We'll see. But by the way, can I just comment on the news that messed up my afternoon when Director Comey.
Sure. I want to get both of you guys to
That
comment on that.
overcooked piece of spaghetti, James Comey.
Oh my God. Kim Strassel has nailed him from day one that all of this stuff back in July, what a phony he was and who his ties were to. He is about as strong as, speaking of spaghetti, as wet spaghetti noodle.
Overcooked spaghetti, James Comey.
He is, you got it. That's good. He is today, what he has done. I mean, I'm going, it's too late, fella. You know, somebody's trying to keep his job. So, first of all, we have Barack Obama.
No matter what happens, I think he's in a little bit.
Yeah. Barack Obama, the president, who twice, of course, in the past, without any evidence at all, while the investigation was going on, pronounced Hillary Clinton innocent, gets up and has this comment this week saying, you know, you jump to conclusions. The FBI, I mean, they're jumping to conclusions, whatever. We would never do that. I mean, directly criticizes Comey, the what I call still the Eric Holder Justice Department being run by the female version of Eric Holder,
right.
Loretta Lynch, who, let us remember, met with Bill Clinton on a plane. They thought they were meeting in secret, except somebody at the airport knew who was there and called a local reporter in Phoenix. It wasn't that the press knew that they were there.
Oh, or the press would have held it.
Oh, they would have, right. They were. This is
just like Hillary collapsing on 9/11.
This is
they
worse
did not want to report that. I know all the reporters in that little group.
Yeah, they saw her collapsing.
I went to grad school with them. They don't want to report
thank
that.
heaven we have alert individuals with iPhone cameras.
iPhones, exactly. Every major moment of this has been captured by a citizen or someone who is called not the. It's in the end. It's always like the guy at Watergate with the tape, the night watchman, right? He gets it right away.
Though I would not say the press was trying to save Richard Nixon, Pat.
No,
there is a difference.
Let me back up a second. Let's get this during before the campaign. They all sat. Now here's the rich irony. They all sat on their hands. Washington Post, two people, Washington Post. The Woodward and Bernstein, that's when the real Bob Woodward was alive, before the one from the invasion of the body snatchers, the pod one came and led the anti-Trump. And Mr. Bezos produced him out of a pod so that he could now lead the Washington Post 14 articles a day attacking Trump.
Yes.
In serious. Talk about a switch in time. And then Walter Cronkite, who unfortunately.
But wait a second. Let's get to current corruption and current polls. Yes. I want to hear from Pat Caddell on what's going on with the polls.
Well, what's happening,
or what you suspect, since we won't know until Tuesday.
Well, we are learning more every minute. But I want to say one of the things that I want to carefully define my role, because I'm not in control of these particular polls, but I've been consulting and writing a lot of the questions on the Breitbart Gravis polls, and so I have wanted depth. I lived through 1980. I know what happened.
Right. You were on the other side in 1980. You were Jimmy Carter's
I was on the other side. I know exactly, painfully, every moment as after the debate and what was the big event, because we had tried to do what the Clinton and the media. Now, we didn't have the media lined up with us. In those days, they actually still. You know, they tried
to be fair,
Yeah, they tried to be fair, and they were, and every time I thought they were going to finish Reagan off, they would not do it. But in any event, we had our foot on his neck on being a high risk,
right?
And with all of the rest of the country being in bad shape, the minute that he had the debate was out of that, all of a sudden you could see the break come. And as I've said to people, and I said this yesterday. Yesterday would be a day when Hillary would go back. And that's if it follows the same pattern. And the bottom would drop out tonight and tomorrow. And the real point is that what is arraying in all of the state polls I have seen in the internals, and I'm going to just give you two big numbers of that, which will tell you everything. Four numbers. One of the is that we have a country where, again, over 60% of people believe it's on the wrong track. More than that, I've got 70% who believe the country is in absolute decline, despite all of the good news we hear about how dare these people.
I'd like to chit chat with the 30%.
Well, it's 28 actually. The other is the question on: do we continue with what Barack Obama is doing, or do we need to change course and not follow those policies, that is a 20 to 25 point question. What is happening, for instance, the numbers I looked at tonight we have in North Carolina from 10 days ago. 10 days ago, that was a 10-point question against it. Tonight, it's a 22-point. It's an 18-point question.
That's interesting, because I wouldn't have phrased it that way.
No, this is a standard question.
But the only reason I say that is Obama, as bad a president as I think he's been because of Obamacare, and screw any of you who disagree with me, because I'm living under it, unlike all of you with employer plans.
Many of the voters are there.
Well, not if they have employer plans or their unions or they got away. But anyway,
they're deductible.
But still, Obama, and I was noticing this today watching Hillary at her rallies. No, I'm sorry. Just take out everything you don't like about Obama, i.e. his policies, out of your head, and just think of Obama the man, and you will admit to yourself, unless you're like my mother, she would never admit something like this. He is elegant. He's charming. He looks good in a suit. He can tell a joke. He's funny. Hillary is the molecular opposite of that. She makes Mitt Romney look cool. And when she had LeBron James on stage with her today, and she said, I wish I could remember exactly what it was, but it was something like, and Mr. LeBron, what you do on the basketball court is what makes you so special. It was something the dorky like Mitt Romney would say, except he wasn't wearing pantsuits. And Beyonce, they're trying to make Hillary's pantsuits look cool by doing, Beyonce has all of her backup dancers dressed in Hillary Clinton pantsuits. Oh my gosh, it's getting worse and worse. She can't give a speech.
Not since Elizabeth Warren showed up and Hillary in the same pantsuit. Have we had a moment?
No, that was Tim Kaine.
That was the shocker. No, this is, by the way, the point that she is literally being carried. But I was saying about Obama, what I'm saying is whether people think his policy.
I would say country. If you asked me to design the question, I would have said so. That it makes your point stronger.
It's what we've been asked, not just by me, but it is a question about whether you want to continue the course he's had or you want to change course.
Yeah.
That is blowing up the other way. I'm telling you all these things.
That's an amazing fact.
But here is the two questions, and we discussed it yesterday on our show. In the national poll that we have, the two questions I wanted to pursue. And by the way, I'm not saying that Trump doesn't have problems. He has got some problems on himself, but the key vote in this election is made up of people who do not like either one of them and are desperately trying to figure out what to do. They are the ones lined up in even greater numbers on these things I'm talking about against it. But here are the two. First one is about the question about how concerned would you be that Hillary Clinton, she's elected, will have from day one be consumed, will be so distracted by the scandals and whatever that she won't be able to manage it's over 60% including 20% of Democrats, 20% of our own vote now. The one thing about Trump voters is on every question where we see these internal defections that I'm watching, including some Sanders. You know what kind of defections Trump gets on a question? 0.8, 0.9 of his voters? No. The other one is this, and it is this is the election. This is the revolt. This is what has been happening in this country for the last year and a half that the mainstream media and the political class cannot acknowledge. And that is the revolt going on.
Yes.
And we ask the question, the political elites have been running this country for their own benefit and to the detriment of the American people. This is the election we have a chance in our lifetime to take back our country, our government, and to change course. It is over 60-some%, including 40% of Democrats.
I'm joined in studio right now by Julia Hahn, Breitbart lead investigative reporter, and Coulter, a 12-time New York Times bestselling author. I always have to catch myself there because I keep writing 11, and then I remember you hit 12 with the latest one.
In Trump we trust.
Yes, and then
pluribus awesome.
E pluribus awesome, which is a fantastic book. And then we've also got Pat Caddell here as well. And so I know Pat was making an important point there before we went to the break about our latest polling. So Pat, I want to let you
finish
that.
This. Then this is the killer. This is the killer point, which is that when I just said the country overwhelmingly says this is the moment.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you ask people, both candidates, Clinton and Trump, if they win with two choices, the political class and the special interests win, or the political class and the special interests lose. Hillary's is 65-35. The political class and the special interests win, including almost 40% of her own voters. And actually, 40.
Again, let me
stop 1 second. Stop a second, and let me just
could disagree with that.
Excuse me.
You're talking nonsense.
Excuse
the famous moment.
No, excuse me. And then
Can
on
I get
Trump,
a word in edgewise?
You can as soon as I get this
No, that's
fact
I'm quoting
out.
you.
Oh, okay.
That's
this
what
thing
he
with
always
Trump.
does.
The thing with Trump. When we ask the same question of Trump, it is 57-43 that they lose if he wins. Now, that includes as many as a third or more of Democrats, over 40% of Hispanics, and particularly well-educated people. If this campaign is on that basis, if that's the saliency, and he's pounding that's what their last 2 minutes, it is what I had prayed for a half hour to do. The people who decided they may not like these guys or him, but right now their choice is, do they win or do those guys win? And
okay, on what theory does the 35% say the political class and special interests lose if Hillary is elected?
Because they were willing to convince themselves of anything.
Okay, so another thing I kind of want to zone in.
I'll tell you what you say. I don't know. Whatever.
No, I'm accepting that.
I'm telling you what
they're
happened.
just Hillary loyalists and whatever it is. Who's prettier? Who's taller? Who's smarter? Who has more money?
That's where they break down. They break down on some of these things. Those are the points that are important. That is the vote, and this is why I believe that we are headed for something historic. And my last comment, and I'm going to shut up and let Ann do this because I want to hear more of her madness, but as opposed to my rationality. But the last thing is, last year, let me just say this about the polls. You can't understand. We don't have enough time to begin to tell you how bad they are. But I want to say this. Last year in Kentucky, there was a governor's race. The candidate running was a true Trumpian kind of candidate, a businessman who was considered a little bit out there. He was all the polls in Kentucky, which is still basically at the local level more Democratic state.
Yes.
He was down on an average of 6 points in all the polls. He won by 9. That was a 14 to 15 point switch.
Is that bad polling?
No, it's because they don't know what to ask and they don't pay attention to the fact.
Well, how about a simple question like, who are you going to vote for?
It's a little more complicated for that than the people who aren't really sure what they're doing until they do it, who are conflicted. This will surprise you, Ann. There are people who are conflicted about their what the political. They are not cardboard. They can walk and chew gum. They can say, I think so and so is really obnoxious. So I think so and so is. But what am I going to vote on? Am I going to vote? And the other collapse this last 2 weeks has been Obamacare, which has taken a dive. The reason being that if the people aren't on your plan problems, they are on high deductibles and no doctors. Right. So this is affecting real people. And so these things are all at work, is what I'm saying, just like the trade issue, except that Republicans tell me I'm wrong about that.
Okay, just before I ask a few other questions, I want to explain can I get a word in edgewise?
I'm done.
I go out to dinner with our friend Meryl Kinsler and Pat Caddell one time. This is a 60-second story. And for 2 hours, Pat Caddell talked 90% of the time. Meryl talked 8% of the time. I talked 2% of the time. And after 2 hours of this, we're getting Meryl Kinsler on the phone if you don't believe this. After two hours of this, I started to say something, and Caddell erupted. Can I get a word in edgewise? And Meryl and I both just burst out laughing. He was actually kind of surprised at us, but without any coordination, we both just burst out laughing. Okay, so wait, there was a few. Well, what are you doing, Julia? What are you looking at there?
Julia's working on a big story tonight.
I'm very excited by her big story she just told me.
Hillary's losing the left. We have lots of progressives, prominent progressives, that are coming out and endorsing Jill Stein that just cannot support Hillary Clinton between the corruption, the WikiLeaks revelations.
Why not Trump? For Pete's sake, he's with Sanders on trade. He's with Sanders on open borders. He's with Sanders on hating Wall Street.
Well, I won't disagree with you there, but I think for a lot of progressives that, have different views on crime or different views on certain, social issues, I think Stein is more their candidate. And there's certain things that she certainly doesn't.
Oh, just vote Trump, you progressives.
But, you're seeing Susan Sarandon, you're seeing Mark Lamont Hill, you're seeing Cornel West, you're seeing Killer Mike.
Mark Lamont Hill?
I know, I had no idea.
We can be friends again.
But this gets to the point of what we were talking about during the break, which I think is important. It seems like
I have to ask you a question, Julie, before you say this. Wait a minute, Julie, are you telling me that after Barack Obama told them, after he told the crowd the other day, that they are not to do except what he said, which is you do not waste your vote on someone else, that these people are not doing what they're being told?
Well, the point they make is that the Green Party, in their view, has to get 5% of the vote, and then they can start getting funding. They can start having more of a national conversation about the issues they want to be talking about. And in their vote, in their mind, they're investing their vote. They're not throwing it away. They're not going to vote for the lesser of two evils. They're going to vote for what they actually believe in, which is why they're voting for a lot of these progressives.
I just wish that message was broader based and some people would have helped Jill Stein with her message. That's all I want.
I think they should vote for Trump.
I kind of agree there.
There's
they
nothing
should vote for
scary
Trump.
and if you talk to Democrats,
I know a lot of
even
Sanders
in New
supporters who are
York,
voting.
yeah, me too. And and I haven't met one that I haven't been able to convince. But it's going to take a long time if I have to meet them over drinks over and over and over
and
again.
A lot
and we
of money.
only
That's
have
a lot of bar tabs.
It's a lot of bar tabs. But I have noticed talking to people who are normally Democrats, liberals in New York, when you get them alone, and they're not on television, there is not a crowd around, and I'll say to them, are you really afraid of Donald Trump on abortion, on gay marriage, on any of the issues that are usually used to gin up and scare liberals in places like New York? And they say no. No, of course not. So why not just vote for Trump if you don't want job-killing trade deals, if you don't want millions of third world workers driving down the working class's wages, if you want to go against Wall Street, the only guy who's offered to do it in my lifetime running for president of one of the two major party candidates is Donald Trump. Nobody, that hedge fund loophole has been around for 20 years now?
Ever since the Chuck Schumer and Max Baucus cut the deal in 2006, it's in the Washington Post.
Oh, I thought it was longer than that. Okay,
no, when they were going to kill it, when it passed the House.
Oh, I remember
went to the hedge fund industry, which is not involved in politics. Washington Post has all this. It's there in the internet. You can find it. And they basically said, if you'll give us the money, we will kill it in the Senate. And guess who didn't complain? Bernie Sanders didn't say a word.
Right.
Hillary Clinton didn't say a word. Nobody said a word.
No, but
they got
did the
money.
Republicans.
Well, of course, they wanted the money. Don't you get it? The first thing that Mitch McConnell did the moment that thought they would win was go to Wall Street after Wall Street had been funding Democrats in the Senate races and Obama for three elections.
You know who that
and they
was?
went and they had to go. He goes to the floor. He goes up there and has fundraisers. And Harry Reid, who just flew back from a Wall Street fundraiser, went on the floor and denounced the Republicans as the party of Wall Street. I just have to love it.
It was not
so
McConnell, and I'm not defending McConnell. It was John Boehner. I remember it like it was yesterday.
McConnell too. It was the senators too.
I don't think he did.
They are all
He's
in this.
He's not as dumb as.
Oh, you wish.
So the where I kind of want to take this now though is it seems like the institute Trump is running against the institutions themselves. This is not like a normal election where you've got a Democrat candidate, a Republican candidate.
Right.
Clinton is an institution in America. Clinton Incorporated. I mean, they've been around for 30 years. You've got he defeated the institution that is the Bushes and Rubio, et cetera. It was kind of another new wing of that in the Republican primaries. And also you've got the media as a whole. In fact, I'm texting with a mainstream media reporter who's at the Trump rally in Leesburg, Virginia. I'm going to protect this guy's identity, but he's literally told me that there are thousands and thousands of people out there. First off, his editors will not let him write that story. And he just bought a Deplorable Lives Matter t-shirt.
Oh, God, I wish I had one of those.
Which I'm going to go get one.
I can send you to a place where you can get those very, very nearby here.
They have them. Well,
at the book signing I did in New Jersey yesterday, I thought this would perk you up. I wanted to tell you about this. Not only, I mean, we only had 5 days to advertise it. There was a huge crowd, like 200 people there. And right as we walked in, people came up and said, when we were driving in and they were coming from really pretty far away. They were saying, hey, when we were driving to the bookstore, there was this big, like, empty storefront, and it had huge Trump signs all over it. It's nothing but Trump signs, and there's a big Trump for president truck outside. So, of course, the people who run that storefront were at the book signing. So they took us there afterwards, and oh my gosh, they have this great picture of Hillary behind bars, and they have all these life-size, standing men
awesome.
of Donald Trump, and you can go and get your
this is in New
signs there.
Jersey?
It's right across the line, actually. I'll tell you where it is in a minute. But this is not something that's been organized or helped at all by the Trump campaign. Doesn't even know about this. The guy who owns it owns the pub next door. And by the way, the truck has just been vandalized, so maybe I shouldn't give the name of the town. But it's just all these people who love Trump, and they're all just standing around passing out signs. Huge sign, Trump for president. That's what Trump has. That's why he doesn't need the organizers, the consultants, everything you hear on MSNBC about his ground game. No, it's all Trump. He has so much enthusiasm. There were young people, there were minorities. This is just yesterday. I mean, this is true of a lot of my events for In Trump We Trust. It's not what you would think.
There is. Let me say, this is a sui generis movement.
Yeah.
The revolution in this country wasn't started by Trump or on the other side by Bernie Sanders. They were found. I believe what the point you're making, Matt, that I think is interesting, is the lineup of the institutions of the part that David wrote about, upset about the other day on your favorite pal Bill Maher show, where Granholm was having a meltdown and he was talking about Hitler coming and all the shit they were doing. All that. Oops, I just used it. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's serious. It's satellite radio.
Oh, God, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that, folks. So the family, it's just can't. Anyway, they were carrying. I was in hysterics laughing because it was so bad. And David Frost said, well, we got to protect the institution. And the Tom Friedman of the world, how dare we question the institutions we very much need? No, the American people are in live revolt. As many as 85 to 90% all agree on one thing. They're being screwed, and they're being screwed by those people who are raping the system for themselves. Now,
right.
That is what, as I said, you don't need as much a ground game when you have people who decide to make a move. But your point on this is, and I wish Trump, he started saying it some yesterday, he is a man alone except for one thing. He has no institutions, he just has millions of people.
Right.
They've all lined up against him. Why? And I wish this is the idea that I wish could have been conveyed in this campaign.
I think he has.
No, because he's not the threat. They are the threat.
I gotta tell you,
the political class is terrified of people.
He's doing all of this, and he's screwing it up again. If he only listened to me. He's totally done that. He's been talking about draining the swamp forever.
Joined in studio by Pat Caddell and Coulter. Julia Hahn, we were talking about during the break is some of the demographic shifts in the United States and how a lot of these states, if we weren't importing so many different people from Latin America into the United States, would probably be voting certainly red, or at least be a lot different outcomes in a presidential race. Can you tell us a little bit about I want to start with Julia and Ann about what you guys have there.
If I could warm up Julia, I think you need a little aperitif before you give us the details.
Well, you've written the book on this, so go ahead.
No, but that thing you were just showing me is amazing, and it's just this is how Democrats are winning. We wouldn't. You see Rachel Maddow being so happy on MSNBC, and I sit there watching the TV and say, because you guys brought in 40 million voters. There's no reason for this election to be close. You know damn well all you did was bring in ringers because you couldn't get the American people to vote for you anymore. And that is what they've done, and that's what we're going to find out this election. As I say at the end of chapter 1, is the country already over? Because it's all about demographics. Now, I do think Trump will, particularly with the black vote, I think it will either it will be a depressed turnout, or more blacks will vote for Trump than have voted for any Republican since Richard Nixon, or perhaps both. But in other words, people whose grandparents were born here, Trump would win a 50-state landslide if that's the only people who are allowed to vote. Now, Julia was just showing me here this interesting thing on 538.
Sure. So Nate Silver has this whole projection of you can flip a district or flip a state and see the states turn from blue to red or vice versa based on demographics. And what's interesting about it is that you can break it down you can break it down in terms of college educated whites, non-college educated, black votes, Hispanic votes, Asian votes, others. And if you suppress the white vote entirely, you watch literally the entire electoral map turn blue. And I mean, you've written about this, where you're importing a lot of migrants, Democrat-leaning migrants, that on policies support big government policies. I mean, Phyllis Schlafly wrote the definitive text about it and basically said that if Republicans want to continue winning on a small government conservatism, they can't continue their migration policies.
Right. Post-1970 immigrants are voting 8-2 for the Democrats.
The people who are responsible for the change in this, the Republicans, Chamber of Commerce, and rich Republicans who wanted cheap labor, and they made a deal with the devil, which was Democrats wanted cheap votes. And the refusal all along to ever do anything about immigration is fueled by that. And you can go up and down Washington, D.C., and the people who are paid up, but it starts at the Chamber of Commerce, who represents those people. So the Republicans have nobody to blame but themselves and their leadership, if that you think is the problem. I do want to say one thing, that when I talk about a revolution in this country in terms of attitudes and belief, we're talking about 85 to 90% of the American people. That includes Hispanics. That includes black people. It includes everybody. And the fact that it is because our politics has been so polarized that the lack of the Republicans trying to talk about, I say this as a Democrat still, they're talking about black people. I mean, Trump has been real because he actually has affinity.
Right.
Most Republicans talk about black people like they're talking about people from Mars.
Or like they're talking about Mexicans. Yeah, that's what I noticed today when Newt Gingrich...
They have no feeling. Ronald Reagan was a Democrat before he was a Republican. Understand why he won. Because he came from an understanding and a feeling.
Well, it's also a different country. Newt Gingrich on Meet the Press today was agreeing with Chuck Todd's assessment that Trump's opening speech was about Mexican rapists was a huge mistake. To confirm Pat's point, the old Republican Party, the pre-Trumpian Republican Party, and the media agree that black people are Mexicans. Mexicans are the same as Colombians, Guatemalans, Muslims, and also that even so everybody, all minorities, this is an insult to minorities to talk about Mexico sending rapists, and also that the Mexican immigrants who came here legally are dying for more competition. They left Mexico so they could recreate Mexico here. Both political parties firmly believe those three facts.
Guys, in the last few minutes we got left here, and I want to start with you, Ann, and we'll get to Pat. Obviously we're 36 hours away from the polls opening on Tuesday morning. What would be your closing message to the American people as they're thinking about going to vote on Tuesday?
Nobody knows what you do in the polling booth.
Well, that's true. And I want to say one thing to remind people. The head of the trade representative has announced that they've got the votes for TPP that they can pass after the election, as Hillary will lay down, and all of the, quote, Republicans will desert their base again. So if you care about trade, this is the one time to stick it to them, because they won't have a chance. But that's on everything. The issue in this campaign is simple. Who owns this country? Do the people own this country that was founded for them, or is it owned by a political class and a bunch of special interests who believe they can buy and corrupt the democracy? Every American president for many years, every day, this is what Franklin Roosevelt stood against. It is what my party used to stand against before it sold out to them all. And these really overeducated elites, your friends in California, which I deserted, this is a time for the country to take itself back and let them screw it up. They couldn't do any worse job than these idiots have done in Washington.
Anne will give you the last word. We've got about 30
No,
seconds
it's Julia's
Julie's
closing
turn.
statement to the American
I
people.
didn't have a
You're
closing statement.
the young future of the country. Say
I
something.
was just going to make your point. I was going to add to your point that, WikiLeaks just revealed that Hillary Clinton plans on basically betraying labor, selling them out, and passing TPP as soon as she's elected.
And speaking of WikiLeaks, there's actually a new release just now from the DNC email leaks. They just released another batch of emails, so we've got our team is digging into that as we speak right now. Another 8,000 emails just came out from the DNC ones, not Podesta emails. This is another batch of emails. So I would imagine.
I would wish they would hack Anthony Weiner so we could see the missing emails that apparently are gone.
I don't know if I want to see
I don't want to
that.
see those emails.
I do not
What
want to
else
see
gets
those
caught in
emails.
those?
I wish they'd hacked me. I think my emails would be very edifying.
Oh, I bet they would.